I'm staying at an Airbnb in Japan, and this thin aluminium pan and induction hob setup is just not working for me. As you can see, the food's kind of getting burnt on. I think this just gets too hot no matter what setting you've got it on. So I want to head to Ikea today and buy a better stainless steel pan. So that's my mission. So I put the location into Google Maps, and a 1 hour 35-minute walk looked just right for a Sunday afternoon, but I'd failed to clock the fact that it said take the ferry in the instructions. We'll get to that later. But anyway, I set off on my journey to Ikea, and only a few minutes into it I found myself going past a nitori, which is basically a lot like an Ikea. It's kind of like the Japanese version of it, but not quite as fleshed out or with as many products. And I had actually looked on the Nitori website before leaving home, and I couldn't find what I wanted. They had all these pans, but they just didn't have a stainless steel frying pan like I was looking for. And I even went round to the next aisle, which was like the camping section, and I found some stainless steel pans there, but they were really thin, and I thought I might have the same problem that I'd been having with the aluminium pan back at the apartment. So that meant I left Nitori empty-handed, and I continued my journey onto Ikea. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you might remember when I was in Daiso the other day, I did pick up a skillet, a cast iron pan, and I was quite excited to try it and see how it went. But when I did try it on the induction hob, it actually overheated the hob. I was getting an error saying that the hob is too hot and it's going to switch off. So the cast iron pan didn't work either, which makes sense because they get really hot. So my quest for the perfect pan does continue. Now, if we look at the map of where I'm heading to, we can quite clearly see there's the sea, which is creating rivers. And if we look at the shape of the piece of land where Ikea is, we can see that's not a natural shape. And that's because it's reclaimed land, or umetatechi. The area I was walking in quickly started to feel like a port or an industrial area, which makes complete sense because I was next to the sea basically. It felt kind of cool to get out of the hustle and bustle of Nanba actually. I came across what looked like some old school Godzilla influenced street art, which was pretty cool. But it was at this point when I started to consult my Google Maps again as to how I was going to cross this river. I was kind of looking for a bridge because I knew I was walking all the way to Ikea. But it was at this point I saw that I'd have to catch a boat. And I thought, crap, maybe this isn't going to work out how I thought it will. I thought, you'll probably have to pay for the boat, and it might not even be running on a Sunday. Maybe I'll just keep on walking and it'll take me really far out my way, but that's how I'll get to Ikea. But then I did end up walking past this small path which had a sign for the ferry, and I thought, well, let's at least just go and have a look what's up there. And as you can see, when I got to the little hut with the sign on the wall, number 1, it says the ferry service is free. So that was great. So now I just needed to find out if it was running on a Sunday and what time. So I went over to the timetable and found that there was one due any minute, which was just great, and it just made me really happy. I thought this is going to be a really cool way to get to Ikea. So I walked down the ramp and met this guy, and I confirmed that it is in fact a free service. 無料ですか?
無料です。
Oh, よかったです. And then I could see the ferry on the other side, and it wasn't much of a distance actually, but I just waited for the ferry to come over. This is obviously a service that the local government provides to people. It's just, I guess, people need to get from one side of the river to the other quite frequently. It looked like this guy did it on a regular basis with his bike. And so, yeah, everyone got off, and then we just got on the ferry, and they took us over to the other side, and it was pretty cool, to be honest. So how cool was that? I turned up at just the right time. I didn't even have to wait 5 minutes. The boat ride itself took about 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden I was on the other side and I could continue with my journey. Yeah, so Google Maps, it rarely lets you down, does it? And so now I was getting closer and closer to Ikea, obviously, but I was still in quite an industrial area. There was a lot of housing, but there were also quite a lot of kind of liminal spaces, which I really like. In fact, it reminded me of when I used to live in Kobe as a student. When I studied abroad there, I lived on Umetatechi. I lived on a reclaimed island at that time as well, and funnily enough there was also an Ikea on that island. So just doing this whole journey reminded me of that time. I used to walk around the island late at night, and it had a very similar vibe to this place. I ended up walking past a shrine, and then I got to a place with a lot more houses and shops, and then I walked past this, a laundrette, a coin randori, and I've just got to show you the inside. I love stuff like this, and a lot of people always ask me, how futuristic is it in Japan? Is it, really cutting edge? And there are elements of that in Japan, but there are places like this where everything looks 60, 70 years old. And I love stuff like this. I mean, it's just a room with really old washers and dryers in, and then a chair, just a crappy chair to sit on the floor. How cool is that? You might have thought everyone on this patch of land has been to Ikea, but obviously not the person who runs that space. But anyway, I was getting closer and closer. I crossed one more bridge, and then I could see it in the distance. I don't know if you can pick it out here, but I could just see Ikea glowing in the distance. And then about 15 minutes later, I'd arrived, and I noted the bus that was pulling in as I arrived, and I thought I can perhaps use that for my return journey. It might make things a bit easier, assuming it goes back to Nanba. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out maybe, 25% of what I filmed just walking around, because if you've been to Ikea before, you'll know there's like a route that they take you around so that you basically walk past literally everything that they sell. But this Ikea felt bigger than any I've been to in the UK, and it'd just take me forever to show you everything. So here's a little time lapse of a taste of walking around Ikea in Osaka.
So give it a real deal, the real taste.
So that was the showroom type stuff. If you're buying furniture or fitting out a room, buying a whole new kitchen, that's the part of Ikea where you get that stuff. And now we're more in like a traditional shop. Really puts Nitori to shame, because I'm in pan heaven. Just look how many pans there are and how many of them are stainless steel. So I definitely come to the right place, and I had a good look around, decided on what I wanted. But then I found this display for plant-based keema curry. Now, I try and eat plant-based as much as possible. It's not always possible in Japan, which is a real shame. It can be quite difficult. This is my first time living in Japan in a good few years, and I perhaps thought that it had caught up with the West or Europe in the years I wasn't here, but it's just not the case. It's quite difficult to find stuff that vegans can eat without animal products in. So it's just funny that coming to Ikea is where I can find all the plant-based stuff, and it's definitely something to bear in mind. And you'll see I bought some stuff later on as well. But I picked up a few packs of the curry, and then I also picked out the pan that I wanted. I think it's the pan for me. I've got a good feeling about this one on the induction hob, but we will have to see. I also picked up some sponges, and then with that I headed to the checkout, and I didn't want to wait for the shop to close and spend too much time, because I had heard on the speaker that the that the restaurant area offered fish and chips, and they're actually plant-based fish and chips. So it was definitely on my mind to get to the restaurant section and have a meal. You know, I'm British, I've got to try it. Plus I was super hungry as well. So we'll go to the checkout and then we'll go and get some food in the restaurant. In fact, not before I added one more thing to my basket, and that was some plant-based instant ramen. Had to try that too. But now we're ready for the checkout, where I will buy a bag as well. But here we go. It's a self-checkout. So that lady was just asking if I was okay to pay not with cash, which I was, because I was planning on using my card anyway. But here we go. I'll talk you through what's happening. It says start on screen, so we just click that, and I'll also talk you through the prices of everything I'm buying. I've got the receipt here as well, so it's one of them where you have to pick it up and scan. So sponges, they were 149 yen, and then next up we've got the plant ramen, which was also 149 yen, and then my pan, which was 2,299 yen, and then 3 packs of curry, which in total came to 897 yen, because they were 299 each. And then I also had a bag, picked up one of these big Ikea bags. I thought next time I move Airbnb, it might be useful for carrying some stuff with me on the train or whatever, and I needed a bag anyway. So now I'm just clicking through to payment. It's asking me if I'm a member of Ikea, and I'm not. Then it's like, have you scanned everything? And I'm like, yes. And then click Credito Cardo. You can see the total was 3,623 yen in total. We just take the receipt, and then we can pack all our items, and we're done. And now it was time for me to head to the food section. They always keep this bit separate from the main shop. I'm not quite sure why they do that. I guess it makes sense. They've got freezers and stuff. But as I said previously, it's really hard to find plant-based stuff throughout the rest of Japan. So now was a good chance for me to actually grab some stuff, because IKEA is really good with this. I think a lot of it is based on it being good for the planet as well. But like even their hot dogs that they serve over not too far from this shop, they're veggie dogs and things like that. Anyway, I knew this was what I wanted. I've had these in the UK and they're really great. Some plant-based meatballs. So I grabbed a couple of packets of those, and then picked up a couple of boxes of biscuits too. And then we headed for the checkout again, separate checkout. So let's go through the prices here again. So back at the checkout, click start again, and then pick up the scanner. And this box of biscuits was 499 yen. Nice Swedish ginger flavoured biscuits. And then these plant balls were not the cheapest at 999 yen per pack, but worth it for me. Then these biscuits were 299 yen, similar to the first but just in the shape of letters. And then my second pack of plant balls. And then it's just asking again, have I scanned everything? There was actually a guy stood behind watching me, and you never know whether they're watching because they think you might need help or because they think you might steal everything. But I didn't steal anything. I did pay for it, 2,796 yen in total, as you can see. We'll go through the totals properly at the very end of this video. So we're just waiting for the receipt now. And there we go, that's my second checkout of the day done. There he is. He was probably just looking out for me, wasn't he? But you can see in front of me there is the cafe, kind of the food court area, and they do serve veggie dogs and ice cream and melon soda, or they did last time when I used to go. But I wanted to go upstairs to the restaurant and have a proper meal of fish and chips. Fish and chips?
Fish and chips, right?
So there we go, some plant-based fish and chips with a nice, it's like a tartar sauce on the side. And then it was just time to head to the checkout to pay. And the lady was really nice, and she said there's some drinking water for free that you can go and grab as well. So I grabbed my knife and fork and then headed for my seat. So here we go, British style fish and chips from a Swedish furniture shop in Japan. And they were really good. You know, I love Japanese food, but there's something about eating the kind of food you're used to, a bit of British stodge, that's really nice. I honestly really enjoyed this meal. And all there was left to do was drop off my tray and plate at the Henkyakuguchi and watch it get sucked into that hole where it presumably gets cleaned and readied up for someone else's fish and chips. By the way, one thing I did want to point out is that, you know, Ikea has those Swedish names for all of their products and you don't know how to pronounce them. Well, in Japan, as you can see here, they give you the reading underneath in katakana, which is pretty useful if you want to know how to pronounce these strange furniture names. So, as I said on my way in, I did indeed want to get the bus home, and I can see it does go to Nanba there, and I can see it's 210 yen for an otona, for an adult. And it wasn't long before the bus showed up. There were quite a few people waiting to get on after a long day at IKEA, or Ikea, as it's called in Japanese. It's one of those buses where you get on in the middle and then get off at the front and pay on your way out. And here we are going back across the river to the mainland, and it was a really Natsukashi or nostalgic day for me, because like I said, when I first came to Japan, I lived on an island, or umetatechi, much like that, and there was an IKEA. I believe it was Japan's first IKEA. It was in Kobe, and me and my friends, we were broke students, and we used to go all the time to the cafe in IKEA and get the hot dogs and the melon soda. So it was kind of cool to revisit that again today. And you've got a couple of Japanese people sleeping, as they do, sleep anywhere. And the bus was funny because it had just you can't really see them in this shot, but wall-to-wall adverts for IKEA and videos playing. But don't worry, IKEA, I love you anyway. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the haul. The pan is obviously what we went for today. We got that, and at the same time at the checkout, we got the plant ramen and 3 packs of the plant-based keema curry and the sponges, and that came to, in yen, 3,623 yen, which is just over £18, I think, which is really good. And then at the same time, we got these biscuits, and 2 packs of these meatballs, plant balls. That came to 2,796, which is just over £14. So I spent about £32 there. Oh yeah, the bag was included as well. And then my meal, which was around about £4, and I think that was about 800 yen, wasn't it? And then the bus journey, which was 200 yen. So grand total about 7,500 yen, which comes to about 36 pounds, I think. And that's really not bad to say. I got a really great pan, loads of food, and had a nice little boat ride and a nice day out as well. So thanks for watching. If you liked it, please give us a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.